Lovely to see you. I'm out here in the garden. I won't stay outside because it's windy and whatnot. But I'm here doing the weekly God of Me update. If you're here for the first time and thinking, what am I on about? I'm outside because I'm going live on Facebook, and it always takes a minute or two for my beloved husband, who's inside, to first have the video appear on my feed where he's sitting there pushing the refresh button, and then share it out to the groups where there are people that I know actually like to join me live. So while we're waiting, I always show off the garden. Hello, great to see you. I show off the garden, or I show off crystals if it's raining outside. So I'm out here, so let me show off the garden. So this is exciting. The Luculia is coming into flower. Nothing's open yet, but these beautiful flowers, actually there are some, they smell gorgeous. Look at that. They're so beautiful, pure white, and I can't get the scent to you across the camera, but they're lovely. Ah, it's you, Marilyn. G'day, sweetie. So you can see that the anemones are a bit thirsty. I need to throw some dishwashing water on them because we have water restrictions here. There we go. Now you got some focus. So even if I was going to bother hosing them, that's not happening. So the garden is just green and lovely and blowing in the wind, and there are all kinds of flowers. So let me show you. We have some fuchsia here, which I really like. I mean, look at that. It's fabulous. Just turn it up so you can see it. I mean, look at that. I love this blush here. It's the reason why I took a cutting from this particular tree. When I saw it somewhere, I thought, I want that, many years ago. And the roses are doing their thing. They're in between flowerings, but they're looking quite happy. And look at this. I love this. The neighbours gave this to me. It wasn't doing well on their side of the fence. It's absolutely thriving here in the shade. And I mean, wow, it's a fuchsia, right? But it's an unusual one. It's not the normal fuchsia. And what else have we got here? See, things are starting to dry out and finish. We've got a few late iceberg roses, which are still glorious. And let me show you again the last of the Lotus Lake Pelargonium. People call it a geranium. See those leaves? But it's a pelargonium. And what else can I show you? The dahlias are a bit moth-eaten. But what I am going to show you is my mother's gladiolus. It flowers late. It's pretty unusual as gladiolus go because it's a crossbreed that she bred herself. And there you go, look inside. Try and get you some focus. The camera gets a bit confused on what it's seeing. It's not going to work. Let's try this one. There you are. See, it glows. It's beautiful inside. And we have calendula, which I enjoy putting in salads. So, yeah, that's the garden. It's kind of windy. It's a grey kind of day. That's fairly normal for summer in New Zealand and Wellington, and I'm happy to be here and grateful. So let me go inside and tell you about my disrupted day, because it is disrupted. Oh, beautiful being. I can see your face pop up at the top of my screen. Just going inside now. It's lovely to see you coming on. Julie, it's you. Happy to have you here. Just going to put my keys somewhere safe. Close the door. Take off my hat. I'm inside now. And install myself here so I can give you the update on my day of disruptions. It's all because I changed my name. I will tell the story. It's all because I changed my name. Hi, Kelly Bird. It's great to see you. And I changed my name in Dropbox. I changed my email address in Dropbox, and basically everything stopped syncing from then on. And realised that a few days later, and have been trying to get it to sync ever since. And it's been a few days and hours, which are pretty valuable to me. And I've come to the conclusion, I've actually noticed something new. I think there's something security-wise blocking it. So, but what I noticed, because I've been doing a great deal of change and self-regulation recently. And this is relevant to the God of Me project. I have actually been making massive changes, and I thought I'd tell you something, and the answer is no, don't. That's the feeling inside is no. I've been making enormous changes in myself, and because increasingly I'm getting to feel better and feel good inside myself, I don't want to go back to those bad feelings, which are still really easy to feel. And what I've noticed with this fun time that I'm having with Dropbox was this, that rush that comes up inside you when you just want to, it's not working. And then to recognize the thoughts in my mind, because I got really good at observing the thoughts. And it's like, oh my God, what's happening to my data? And this is, if I can't do this, my work is affected. And it was amazing. I mean, it was challenging, really challenging, but it was amazing watching what was going on in my brain and my body and thinking, no, I am not doing this. And having the tools and having developed the skills to not do it. That has been really, really good. And so I'm kind of proud because I'm living what I'm writing about. And I think if you are writing about something, you should be living it. Otherwise, what are you doing? Blowing smoke out of your backside. But what happened was that I had to spend a bit of my writing time this morning. I had another experiment to do to see if I could get a different result. And it did give me some more information. I think there is something security that's blocking things from working. It's really hard to tell. I'm not getting any useful error messages or anything, but I think a developer might be able to help me work it out. So, point being that I had to spend some time, and by the time I got to writing, I didn't have as much time as I would do. I lost about an hour out of my 2.5, 3. And that's significant. And I also realised that I did quite a lot of new material in the last week previous. I did quite a lot of new material. I stitched a lot of things together, and I talked about the power of a single thought and the power of a repeated thought. And I started talking about our default mode network, which is the voice in our head, the inner critic. And I actually went back to that piece and I revised it and I sort of looked at things, and I went online because I thought I want to understand this a bit better, and I looked it up. And what I discovered is that, and I didn't do a lot of research because again I didn't have a lot of time, but I learned that there are 7 main networks in the brain, and I don't know what the other 7 are, but I know what 2 of them are. One of them is the default mode network. In fact, I know what 3 of them are. Geez, I learned something. One of them is the default mode network, and that network is operating when we're just kind of musing or contemplating or remembering or imagining, planning something in our future, or when we're thinking about how somebody else might feel. And there's all these diverse regions in the brain, and they function when our internal mind, which is one of the sort of more accurate terms that I discovered you can use to describe the default mode network. It's our internal mind. It's what happens when you are when you are not focused on a task, when you're not goal oriented, when you're not on the job. When you're focused on something, there is another network that's going on, and I can't remember its full name, but it's the executive something network, because it's executing, right? And there's one that's in between that's called the salient network, and you're either in the default mode network or this executive network, and the salient network switches you between one or the other. So you're either outwardly focused doing something, or you're inwardly focused and you're thinking and you're musing. And I was like, oh, okay, well that makes sense. So there's another 4 main networks in the brain, but I didn't learn anything about them. So I unpacked and refined the default mode network thing. And all the while I was thinking, I don't want to go off down in a big rabbit hole, because what I'm really trying to do is get to the point where I can explain about emotional addiction. Because emotional addiction is the reason why, one of the big reasons why change is so damned hard. And that is what I want to explain. Why is it so hard to change? So I'm constantly thinking, okay, so I'm writing about the default mode network. What's that got to do with emotional addiction? And of course, everything is all connected. But this was the kind of untangling thing that was going on in my mind as I was also having to push off the very, very default mode network thoughts that I'm really aware of in my brain.
You don't have enough time. You don't have enough time. You have to push. You have to hurry. You have to try. You have to... That is what my default mode network will tell me. It will tell me all kinds of stories. And they're most of them lies. They're based upon my past. The only thing that can get into our default mode network is our past. And even when we are projecting our thoughts into the future, and I've so experienced this in my own life, and I continue to, but at least I'm aware of it, is that because we have all this wiring, and it's not just in our default mode networks, you know, we have the memory, all the associative memories that we store in our temporal lobes, which are right handy to the ears and the speech centers, because, you know, you need to be able to pull all those associated things up when you hear stuff. So there's lots and lots of memories stored through the brain, but whatever is stored in our brain, we have learned or experienced, or we've inherited it from our parents or possibly our grandparents, you know, in terms of something that's in the DNA. That's known that there is inherited memory, and there's a bunch of memories that are hard-coded, if you like, hardwired into the genetic blueprint that unpacks and builds our little body when we get made as a baby. And those are the memories of hundreds, millions, thousands of years, you know, of surviving out in the wild and everything else. It's all in the past. And so when I am looking at a problem in my life, as soon as I am just musing inside my own mind, and those thoughts are usually pretty negative, they are. They're not all negative, but a lot of them, they're very easy for my default networks to be just horrible and critical, and they're trying to keep me safe, but they just do it the wrong way. That's the box in my brain, and those words I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who of course I've learned a great deal from. And just the box in your brain is everything that you know and have learned and experienced in your past, and those things that you inherited because you have a human body and you have parents. So all of that, we use that stuff when we're dreaming in the future of our future. And if, for example, like me, and this is something I spoke to my patrons in Patreon, because it related to a question that I was answering, is that my thinking, for example, because a lot of people relate to this, not everyone will. For example, my thoughts and my thinking about myself and money and my ability to create money, I mean, you know, it's like I could consciously think what I like, but in my mind it's like, nah, whatever you do, this was my default mode networks, whatever you do, it's not going to work because you've tried and failed a number of times, and all you did was failed and you lost money, and, you know, just, it's not going to work. And if it does work, like the last times that you did this, your progress, your income, your whatever you do will take a very, very long time, and you will work your ass off. You will put a lot of time in, and you'll have a bit of fun, but you'll get crumbs back for what you put in. That's the box in my brain. Do you understand? That's the memories I have. And if I want to create some kind of self and some kind of thinking and feeling and experience of me having a different experience with money, I have to be able to think outside of that box, because that box is what's been creating me. And so I've been changing that, particularly in the last, I don't know, I mean, I've been doing it for nearly 5 years now, but in the last few months, or maybe the last 6 months or year, I don't know, if I can't keep track, I've been starting to gain some traction in terms of how I think and feel. And things that used to put me into stress don't anymore. And it really has boiled down to noticing thoughts that I wasn't noticing, because they were just running in my default mode network. And then identifying, okay, I want to think different thoughts. God, that feels hard to even imagine that different thought, because it's such, to fire a different thought felt so wrong. Really, really wrong. Which is why, you know, before I learned about any of this ability to change, I hated affirmations. Because oh, I'm abundant. And I might say that, and that's not a thing that I would affirm anyway, because it's way too out there. It's too far away for me. But if I would say that, my body, my brain, the default mode networks, all the memories in my brain, the box in my brain, and the chemical continuity in my body that is accustomed to feeling lack would say, oh, no, you don't. We know that it's safe to feel lack. You want to feel something different. We're going to make you feel really bad when you start to feel something else. Even try to think something else. That was and is how emotional addiction works. And that's what I'm trying to explain, to break it down, to make it understandable. But I didn't understand any of this. And so I just thought, well, this is how I am, and don't tell me to affirm something else because it feels horrible. But that's because my cells were just really used to feeling that way, and to feel something different was interpreted as a threat. So they fought back. I said, no, don't do that. So, you see, to change, we really have to change that box in our brain. We have to change what's normal and default for us to think and feel, and how we act, and how we talk, and how we breathe, and how we stand. I mean, if you want to create a healing in your body, how much of your thinking and your feeling and your acting and your speaking and your breathing and all the little compensations that we have to do this. We have to deal with our body when it's unwell. But how much of who you're being, all of those things, has become routine and normal and even kind of old hat and comfortable for you to say, oh, well, I've got this condition. I am sick. Be careful when you say I am anything. Because you're just affirming it and just saying, I agree with this. I am. Well, how about my body has this condition? I've been saying that to myself about the conditions that I have in my body for years now. I don't want to say I have anything. I am consciousness. So I don't have an awful lot of writing update to give to you today because, excuse me, I don't want to see the clock, because I've just had a disrupted day. I did get some writing done, but a lot of it was editing, and there were pieces where I thought, okay, I've tidied that up, and then I scrolled down and looked at these other chunks that I had, and I thought, oh, where does that fit? And I found a place for it, and so I connected dots. And I think this is just my writing process, that I spit out some new stuff, and then I tidy it up, and I have to go back and tidy it up again, and then some part of me knows whether I'm telling the story or whether I'm going off on a detour. And I could feel myself going off on a detour, and I thought, I've got to rein this in. And where does this chunk? I'd written a story about myself and how I thought myself sick in my 20s. I did it. I didn't know I was doing it. I just thought it was normal and there was nothing else to do and be. I didn't know how to be anything else other than miserable. Nobody knew this stuff. Joe Dispenza hadn't figured it out. It was the same time in his life when he was just breaking his back and realising that he could change it, and he barely started waking up to realise, oh my goodness, there's another possibility. So I didn't know, but I wrote this story, and I know I told you about it a few weeks ago, and yet I pulled it out and stuck it at the bottom, and I thought, well, I hope this doesn't end up on the cutting room floor, but I don't know where to put it. Today I found a place to put it. So this is the writing process. I'm not always generating new content. Sometimes I'm just working with what I've got and making sure that it flows as a story, and that I don't go off on a great detour. And to some extent, I am wondering whether this whole chunk that I've written about the default mode network is actually going to end up in another section of the website. But it's kind of relevant, because these voices in our heads, I remember times, and I mean not just recently, but I remember when I was young especially, there were just these horrible loops of thoughts that would just go round and round and round. I would walk from where I lived to where I studied at university. It was about a 25-minute walk, and they'd just go round and round and round for that entire time, because I was angry, and it kind of felt good to feel angry and think those horrible thoughts, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I was doing to myself. So those were my default mode networks, and they were ugly, and I just thought that was me, and that was normal, and there was nothing else you could do. So I guess I'm talking more about the process today than what I've actually been writing, because that's just what's happened. Because I've had a disruptive day, and also because I've been consolidating and tidying up the stuff that I've just written. What's exciting to me, hi Laurie, it's so sweet to see you. What's exciting to me is that my husband has been drawing some great drawings. And if you look on either my profile or the God of Me page, you will see the progression of the drawings he's putting out. And I'm very soon to post another one. I'm going to put it on Patreon first, because it's about timing, and and I want to treat my patrons. But this one I'm going to share. I share the drawings public because I want you to see what's happening. And what's really cool is they said, okay, I've done enough of faces. You'll see there's lots of faces. I've been trying to get a sense of just how much detail there should be in the pictures and how much there shouldn't. Because remember, they're cartoons and they're going to be on a phone. And if you have too much detail, it doesn't work. And my last post was actually, oh poor me, nobody has actually responded to that. If you feel like taking a couple of minutes, I would love you to go to the top of my profile or my page, and then I'd love you to take a minute just to do an experiment with me. It's just go and look at some pictures and give me your opinion about the last two. And there's a story to read. It's not long, and I think it's entertaining anyway. So if you want to do that, I really appreciate your feedback. The point is that's happening, and I said, enough faces. Here's a story. I want you to illustrate it. And so he has. And I just took one look at what he'd done. Like, oh my God, it's perfect. So I'm going to post you that, and I hope you look out for it and see it. It's really cool. So this is the time when I say thank you for staying with me. I'm so grateful that you join me on these lives. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your awareness and your interest in what I'm doing. And if you'd like to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, please do. If you'd like to share this video with someone you know, please do. And if you want to check out what's happening on Patreon, it'd be great to see you there. There are special things that are available to my patrons, and I would love to share them with you. So thank you. I look forward to having more news and hopefully a resolved Dropbox problem next week. But for now, I have a workaround. It's a bit inconvenient, but it means my data's safe, and that's just what I've decided to do. So thank you for being with me. I love you as much as I love me. And I'll see you next week again. Bye-bye.